Do you want to know what it is? The matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Hi everyone, welcome to Dark Marketing. I'm Big Dom, and we're going to talk about SEO. I want to change everything you think you know about SEO today and help you understand how we utilize these softwares that I cover in this channel for both SEO and affiliate marketing, but each tool has its own place and how to make them work in the ecosystem, the tools I use to analyze. And we'll take a good look at all of that, but it all starts with some basics. So let's just start at what you need at the end of every rainbow, and that's a website. Now, except for some approaches to affiliate marketing where you may be just planting affiliate links that don't go to your own website, outside the scope of that, almost everything is going to require at some point that you have your own website where the ultimate products, services, content that you use to promote and build audience, where all of that lies. And there are two types. At the end of the day, there's either static or there's dynamic, but there are shades of gray in between. And that means basically the more dynamic your website, the better it's going to perform. And that's because Google and other search engines are favoring new, latest, greatest, up-to-date information. So of course, having websites that have not only a large amount of content, but good blogs. Blogs are a great way to expand your base. And of course, YouTube videos. These are my top 3 things that I think are really required to have a comprehensive approach in doing all types of SEO and marketing, affiliate marketing, etc. And of course, as much social media that you feel comfortable employing. Now, I'm not going to talk about internal markup of your SEO on your actual websites. I'm going to assume that you're watching my channel and these videos, you've already got a handle on that. You're looking to understand the more advanced dynamics. But if for any reason you're new to SEO completely and you want to get the basic understanding of how to do good markup for keyword response on your HTML pages, I suggest you take a look at Kyle Roof. Just search for him on YouTube. He's got a lot of videos. He's been featured on tons of interviews, and he goes over some solid basics that anyone can follow. You know, having your keywords in your title, good use of heading tags, your heading, your H1 tag, being your primary keyword, H2, H3, H4, good dispersal of keywords, of course, good content, and, understanding that's really another video, and I actually have a really good idea on how to do some good outlines for internal markup. But for the sake of this video, what we want to do is really be past that point and how we're going to connect SEO through the softwares that we use in these videos. So, that being said, let's take a look at some other things about tools I use to analyze and look at what other people do. Now, what I want to do is get into aHrefs here with you guys and kind of really take a different approach than what you do when you look at how other, SEO guys, you go out on the internet or on YouTube, there's a lot of videos about aHrefs. But before we cross that bridge, one thing I want you to understand is content is king. So let's just take a look at like a niche that I pulled up. And these are sites that are about baking bread. And they've got lots of articles of recipes and blogs specifically. And they even offer courses. And here's another one, butter with a side of bread. And again, it's very popular, these sites. There's a lot of searches on the internet. Okay? Taste of home. Okay? YouTube videos. They have YouTube channels. Okay? Again, here, just content. Tons of content. If we get in here and we look at some of the things, they just have a slew of content. And every one of these blogs becomes part of the web of their content that provides the basis for their SEO, okay? And here's another one, Busby's Bakery, okay? These sites get roughly 100,000 visitors or more a month and can generate some sizable ad revenues. And so I wanted to kind of use these as a sort of an example that we will look at this niche versus some other things, but they all fit a certain archetype model in the sense that they've got lots of good content, blogs, and YouTube videos. 3 key elements that we want to use in our process, both in analysis and with the softwares that we utilize, like GSA Search Engine Ranker and MoneyRobot, because that's what we really want to know, right? How to get these helping your internet property. So I want to use these as a sort of example, but we're going to look at a range of different sites and some of the different metrics so you understand how some of this can be a bit misleading, and understanding your metrics versus someone else's. Numbers do not have the same values across the board for everyone. So we're going to get into that now. Now, I want to go back to my man from Tactical Investing. I've never had contact with this guy yet, but I hope at some point we get connected. I saw his video this morning on his latest audit, and it didn't go well for him. And that's because, like, his approach to analyzing aHrefs, and which is not dissimilar to what you're going to find if you do a search for this aHrefs SEO on YouTube. A lot of people doing their talking about their SEO and using aHrefs to kind of give you some, guidance on how they analyze. But, this guy from Tactical Investing, he's following the same sort of approach that a lot of people are doing, okay? And what they're doing is they want to get backlinks from sources that when they look at the source, they've got a high DR value, domain ranking. That the higher the value, the domain rank that's backlinked to you, the better it will be for you. And yes, there is a certain logic to that and a truth in a linear fashion. However, the real impact that has on Google is negligible at best. In the long run, that helps sites that build up over time. But the reality is, I'm going to show you that websites that have no DR value that do well on Google search results. Now, how does my man from Tactical Investing get into trouble in this video? Well, his 2 favorite tools seem to be Xrummer and GSA website. Not GSA website, but GSA Search Engine Ranker. But he was using Xrummer. Xrummer, aHrefs, and Xevil for the capture breaker. Now, it's the right tool for the right job. This is not an SEO tool, okay? You are not going to build backlinks that are going to help you in a positive way unless you use this in a very careful approach. This is only posting to forums, this software. It is extremely powerful. And of course, he said he received a lot of complaints. And of course, people are going to complain and they're going to file your URL, your ultimate objective, as the complaint source, even if you're hiding it behind the bit.ly short link. So what you really want to do with this tool is so that you can filter the types of forums that you want to post. You don't want to be posting anything off topic. And while this thing can post to 100,000 resources, if you're getting 100,000 posts, you are in trouble, because there shouldn't be 100,000 places for you to post on any given topic. You want to use this very controlled. And my advice when starting out with Xrummer, this is a good tool for affiliate marketing, that you're going to be pushing somebody else's link potentially, but of course it has to be done carefully, tastefully, so that it appears to be human and not a spammed mess that's overwhelming these administrators' forums website. You have to analyze it. So this takes a little practice in the beginning. Do short runs. I never make more than 5,000 posts utilizing this software at any given time. And what's important to understand is when you're, analyzing backlinks with these tools, and we're going to take a look at that, this is not differentiate the type of backlink that you're posting to, okay? So this is a very powerful tool, but it needs to be utilized in its context. My personal opinion is very good for certain types of affiliate marketing done stealthily, but it's not something I use for SEO at all. At all, zero, because this will get you in trouble if you're going to try to use it for that purpose. It can help your SEO if done right, and it fits in the metrics of other things that you're doing with backlinking and making posts and other things through automation. You can add a measure of this in if it fits, if it's something that you could do that's not really going to appear like overwhelmingly spammy and get you into trouble. Here's our other best friend and enemy if we're not careful. Let's take a look at GSA. Now, people look at this, and when you're starting a new campaign and you look at all these resources that you can be posting to, and of course, as I've covered in some of my other videos about the lists that you can buy and other resources that you integrate that expand this, there's quite a bit of platforms here to configure. If you think you're going to just go out and suddenly have 50,000 links of various types appearing overnight, you're going to get in trouble. And in fact, when I use this tool, if I'm using it as it relates to SEO, I'm not using most of this. For the most part, I'm focusing, maybe using 2 or 3 things on here, articles. I'll be using the SERs, okay? I avoid the forums. I sometimes do a little bit of guest book, but just a little bit to taper in. I have some mixed feelings about how to handle guest book, backlink posts, so you need to be a little extra careful with that. And my starting advice is don't do it in these type of campaigns with this. Now, if you're doing something with GSA that is going to be an affiliate marketing and you have a barrier between what you're promoting and your website, it's not going to impact your SEO directly on your domain, that's when you're going to create full, robust campaigns with all sorts of resources that you want to get your links onto, because there's a barrier between you and your website, and you don't want it to impact your SEO adversely. You can run this thing and do some pretty powerful things with this, and even have a positive impact on some SEO aspects. But that is not something you're going to do for your standard thing. So just like there's two types of websites, static and dynamic, and we want to be more dynamic than static, there's two approaches in all of this. And you could say there's the affiliate approach, and then there's the SEO approach on the other end, and there's some shades of gray in the middle. But we want to be careful that we don't damage our SEO in the process, and that we understand there's a difference in how we're going to use these tools. So for GSA affiliate, I'm going to load this up and do all kinds of things that aren't going to impact. And that also includes YouTube. I can do a lot of stuff very liberally to YouTube because it's not going to impact my SEO with Google. In fact, anything that I do to my videos most likely is going to have a more positive effect on things as it relates to SEO on Google. And when I say Google, I mean the YouTube videos actually coming up in search results, like SEO for semiconductor industry. We see the YouTube video comes up, and that is my service. So these things all tie in together. So let's connect a few more dots. Now, before I dive back into aHrefs, people often ask me about how to create tiers upwards between the backlinks. And I don't have a live example on this system, but let's just take a look at MoneyRobot, okay? Now, when you create a new campaign in MoneyRobot, it lets you select these types of SEO strategies, okay? And these are basically creating an interlinked tiered structure. And probably what a lot of people think about, I'm not sure if I have that on this system because I have more advanced maps on my actual working systems. But my point with this, you see, this reflects more of what we think of as a tree tiered structure, okay? But whatever you think about these type of concepts, understand that Google and search engines, they don't really see it like this. These are visualizations that are created so that we can sort of get a feel of the interlinking between resources, okay? But, when we look at, say, these different strategies for posting, they're not all PBN. They're a mix of different things, social bookmarks and the like. And so, but the ultimate objective is to have everything linking back to the money site, a web of what we hope search engines will think is somewhat natural in the ecosystem of what it competes. And when I say that, understand that Google is not going to see these. So the way that it's being visualized here, and that's why, like, even using a software like MoneyRobot, you want to mix these up. You want to have different strategies because there is no norm. There is no specific structure that, if that structure is truly identifiable to Google or a search engine and looks like this, well, then I can assure you they're going to see something is not right. So tiering has to sort of happen naturally, okay? Attempting to create tiered structures between different campaigns is a really different topic, more advanced. And of course, this can be done and should be done at a much more advanced level when your backlinking reaches much higher numbers and you've got a well-established domain with high values behind it, like domain ranking and UR ranking. And that's because when people think that if they're going to apply this math of tiering structures between campaigns at an early stage is not normal. The sort of tiering that people attempt to simulate only happens over long periods of time from active websites that build up big followings. And so for that reason, I want you to steer away from that sort of thought concept between tiering your campaigns. And as we take a look at aHrefs, you'll start to understand why. Now, as a rule with aHrefs, you're not going to see all of the data of the entire internet. If we go to the Keywords Explorer, we can see that we can search data by Google, YouTube, Amazon, Bing, Yahoo, Yandex, and they got a few lesser. Baidu is big in China. So, you get a very broad range of resources that it draws data from. However, it also does it internationally. But you're not seeing everything. And I would say, as a rule, it's about 37%. It tends to vary. So you're seeing about 37% of the whole of the internet, and not necessarily the same 37% all the time, as this data is always updating. Okay, now what I've done is I've run in the Site Explorer on aHrefs a bunch of the sites that are all in the same niche of this baking bread. And I use this as an example because these are high volume traffic sites, very popular baking, and this serves as a really good example. Now, generally, when I see videos that people are doing site audits and talking about SEO as it relates with doing analysis with aHrefs, when they're analyzing their backlinks, they are frequently looking at what is the DR value of the site that has backlink to them. Now, we're seeing some high DR values, and that's because, look, there's many factors that go into a domain name's ranking value. And one of the biggest factors is also its age, how long it's been around, when was it registered. And of course, all of these sites have been around, and there's a lot of backlinking involved with these types of blogs with recipes about baking and baking bread specifically. And so what I want you to understand is that it's not about having a high DR value backlink to you, but rather that the source that's backlinked to you is a source that is related. You see, Ambitious Kitchen, Chef Alaska Kitchen, The Clever Carrot, Sally's Baking Addiction, which is one of the other ones that I have, I think, up here. Maybe not. I thought I had Sally's on the list. Let's get her on there, because that'll be interesting. Let me pause. Okay, my bad. I actually did have it. It's this one, Trusted Baking Recipe, because what this is doing is it's taking the title from the website, but this is Sally's Baking Addiction. So, that being said, going back to the backlinks, what is more important? Google and search engines are trying to present the latest and greatest and newest information. But of course, baking is not always going to be new. So these sites have to be constantly adding new material to keep the activity at a, bubbling to the surface from what's going on down below. So even though these sites have high DR values and are substantial sites of their own that backlink to these sites, they are related. It is what is related that has more value. When you go from, say, like posting things that are on certain social media platforms, that is a lesser factor. Unless, of course, it does help if someone's retweeting your post or something along those lines, depending on the mechanic of the specific social media platform. But if we actually were to, let's just duplicate this for a second here. And let's sort these by DR value. And you'll see, we see things here from Pinterest and other platforms that these are not blog posts necessarily, okay? And they have high DR value, but what really gives a site like this its real value is going to be what is the source. Because if we really see, when in the general analysis, that most of these backlinks, they are related. The posts from which the backlink goes to the site is another baking site. So there's a relationship in that value. And if we notice something here, we also we have this, the URL rating. URL rating is really about the page, the value of pages. And there's a lot of factors that go into those values, but understanding that, look, if I go on Google and I search for Apple, of course, Apple's running an ad, but it doesn't have to. They come up number one. I don't get apples or Apple Farms or Macintosh apples. Okay, now these are some Apple things. This is just related to my geolocation. But the reality is, everything is about Apple. Apple, iPhone, Apple. And why is that? Because Apple is such a big company. And there are so many people out there that are linking and posting and making videos about Apple products and other storefront sites that it is impossible for Apple not to come up number one. Google doesn't force it to come up number one, okay? And yet they still buy an ad to ensure that they come up number one. But they cannot not come up number one because they are such a massive company and presence on the internet, and there's so much naturally occurring backlinking from all types of resources, probably a lot of them filtering through Amazon and Amazon storefronts, that it is virtually impossible for Amazon not to be coming up, Apple not to come up number one in its search results. And it's much the same even like, say, for an Amazon, okay? If I search for Amazon, I don't get Africa, okay? Right? We don't see the Amazon, Amazon warriors, no Wonder Woman. You see what I'm saying? And that's because the backlinking for companies like this is overwhelmingly large. So, the real relationship here with these is that it comes from a related source and that there's a constant stream of it. Because now, if we look at their backlinks, now it's telling us that their recent backlinks, they got 2.3 thousand. Historically, they have 6.8. This is what's currently influencing them right now, 1.79, and they are down 505. So let's look at some more backlink data with them. Now, this chart gives us a 3-month overview on its daily tracking. And you could see how many links it picks up and how many it loses day to day. Now, why is this important? And that's because this number here, what's going up and going down, is very critical. It's important to keep yourself in a positive over negative on a daily basis with metrics that fit your ecosystem. So, going back to my previous example about Apple, let's take a look at Apple. Apple's got 17.4 billion backlinks and almost 4.5 million referring domain names. It is impossible for Apple not to come up number one. And I misspoke previously when I said about Amazon, we don't get the Amazon rainforest is not in Africa, it's in South America. But you understand my point. Now, I chose this market because it's very exemplifies what we want to analyze. And everything that I analyze is the relationship of backlinks to the other metrics that are available here. Of course, all of these sites don't necessarily have the same size of pages. Some are comparable, okay? And we'll see the metrics change. Like this one is one of the most substantial. It has one of the highest traffic values, 234,000K. That's a super high number. This is a very large site and it does extremely well. In fact, of all of these examples, this is the leader. Now, this traffic value, when we click on this, there's a universe of useful data in here. I want to just take a quick pause and take a look at this. And here we can actually see the pages. So now, if you wanted to compete in this ecosystem with a baking site, you can analyze your competitors here. And each one of its pages, we can see what its keywords that were tracked outside of it. Now, of course, this site goes beyond just baking bread. It just happened to come up in my top searches. So it has a much broader array of recipe and size over the other sites. So now when we take a look at certain things, we want to compare the values to the values of backlinks. And this is important because what happens is, as we go and look and analyze a competitor's backlinks, this is going to tell us a lot. And normally when I see videos with individuals, SEO experts, or doing SEO audits using aHrefs, they tend to talk about their backlinks on DR value, domain ranking of those backlinks. And of course, that is a factor. However, it's not a biggest factor as the fact that you have a broad array of backlinks that fit your ecosystem that are constantly being added. Now, these sites have been around a long time, and so what happens is they develop a lot of interlinking from each other. They reference each other's blog articles, and if you go down the list, you'll find all sorts of things, including social media from Pinterest and posts that are done. And it's basically, you could see that most of these are other kitchen and baking related resources. And this is the critical thing, because the DR value has very little value if this is coming from some site that is seemingly unrelated, that's some post that has no meaning to baking whatsoever. So it's important that there's a congruency to what's going on in the ecosystem. All of these sites have a lot of backlinking to each other, because in the process of creating these articles and blogs about various baking, they frequently run into issues and or reference someone else's blog article. And this is working really well for a lot of them, as you can see, that it's a naturally occurring thing. And understanding that, what one wants to do to compete in this ecosphere is to, let's get that apple out of there, is to compete the same way by creating backlinks with content that's similar. Like, let's just take a look at this particular backlink. The Big Man's World. And it's clearly a cooking site, understand? And this is the post, and somewhere in here they have a backlink referencing King Arthur's baking. So, understanding this principle, this is what we now want to replicate in our process of creating our own backlinking strategy. What is more important in the backlinking is not the DR value, but rather that the source and the content of the source is similar and shares the same keywords. That page ranking of keywords is what really gives value in an analysis for Google's algorithms that's looking for the latest things. That's why it's far more important to have those type of backlinks and references that are happening more frequently than it is the total number, say, of your backlinks, or rather the DR value. Okay, that's kind of misleading. Now, a lot of people go out and buy backlinks of DR value, and you better get some really good DR value to actually help boost your site's ranking. But if you don't have all the other metrics that fit your ecosystem, that's not necessarily going to help you tremendously. It's time consuming and it's very costly. When in reality, when we see in this ecosystem, these companies, businesses have lots of updated content. Content is king. The more content you have and you grow your content, the more that you can backlink from it. Because if we look at just some of these other sites that are creating links to this one, you'll see that the UR value, which is the URL value, which is determined by the backlinks to the homepage URL. It's less because too much linking, if we were to do backlinks and just point to the main URL, because you can see he's not backlinked to kingarthurbaking.com. He goes right to something that's useful to his article. How many ounces in a cup? Ingredients, weigh chart. I don't have to look at it to know there's a relationship. That's far more valuable. But if I actually sort these by DR value, you'll see that there's actually a range of values. Let's give this a minute. We'll probably get the high values first. And we do. And we could see that many of these high values, they have very low URIs. Understand? So not everything is linear in the way that people want to measure things up and down and just say, hey, the higher the DR value or UR value, better for me. No, not necessarily if it's not related. Now, 14,000, 17, 19 pages, and what was our total? Oh yes, this one has 1.79 million backlinks. So this is a large site, and it has a very high traffic value as well. Okay, now some of these other ones, they're in a lower range, 9.7 million. Well, that's a big one. 9.3, 4.4. And then we get into like more normal, I guess. I guess this is the small one in the batch. But if you're competing, what you want to do is sort of follow that metric because it's more important. Let's do this. Let's sort this the other way now and look at some of the things at the bottom. And very quick before it switches, notice Pinterest. Okay, Pinterest is not a website. It's not like, hey, this is you can attach a specific relevance based on that it's another baking resource. What's more important is the content from which it's being linked back from. And now, if we go to the other end here, we see we've got tons of backlinking that starts at 0. So there's clearly a broad range of DR values. What's more important is the total number of backlinks. And that traffic values, I mean, these are high traffic values, but traffic values can be a bit misleading because it's all about how much people are bidding at that time to drive the total traffic values up. They can swing wildly for a lot of people. I have clients that register traffic values like as much as 10K a month. But the truth is the value of their leads is in the millions. So there's not always a direct relationship between the value of the lead and the value of that's based on pay-per-click. However, in this case, with these type of sites, it's a little bit more telling, and that's because they're not selling bread. They're selling ads. And that's really the income stream that all of these sites are in the business of, really in the ad revenue business. So what really is going to matter here is looking at the backlinks, and going through your competitors' backlinks is one of the best ways to understand how you need to compete. And we see things from Wikipedia. These are all things that we can also capitalize on in our backlinking process. Now let's just pause for a second and think about these metrics in terms of the type of backlinks we're going to do and how these are going to impact these sorts of numbers. And the truth is, most of what I analyze initially, if I'm looking at clients or competitors, is just looking at some of the basic numbers up here tell me a lot. Some of the things historical or sometimes useful, but digging into the details of things and is where you really start to see what makes the difference between this site having a higher value that aHrefs is assigning it to, as opposed to its traffic value, as opposed to how much organic traffic. And keep something in mind. If this says it gets 6.5 million, it probably gets roughly 3 times that, because like I said, this only sees about 37% in clients that I track their actual Google Analytics as it compares to the raw data. Everything follows really follows that 37% rule, because this doesn't see everything, but it does see quite a bit. And analyzing traffic values is very useful. So let's look at this one, which is like a smaller one. But we can take a look and look at the search phrases that it has tracked actual users searching that came to this particular blog article. And we get lots of data, the country, the search volume for the phrase, okay, which is very important. And because we want to determine where the value is in the content that we have or our competitors have, so we can actually analyze that. We can also analyze, if I'm competing with the big guy, I want to look at his organic keywords, what he's coming up for organically, and that means non-branded. And we can get lots of useful data. But when you analyze that data, you must analyze it in the context of backlinks, because that's the metric that we are attempting to subvert. That Google and search engines have to sift through an enormous amount of content, and they are incapable of crawling through it all. And one thing that really helps sites become much more encompassing and hitting the bigger numbers is what happens over time, backlinking. Now, I watch a lot of Niche Pursuits podcasts. Maybe some of you are familiar with these guys. They have great interviews with a lot of different type of web businesses and blog sites and all of their stories, and give a lot of tips. And you find that a lot of these things, these niches, are not dissimilar to something like this, a baking or cooking sites, or some niche interest that someone has made very popular. And I have seen that many have said, well, we really had no backlinking strategy whatsoever. And when you then go and look at that website, I will find that they actually have backlinks, but those backlinks became naturally occurring just through their success. And like I said earlier in the video, you got 3 key points: content. Well, content, blogs, and YouTube. But content is king, because ultimately, the more content that you have, that's more backlinking that you can do, because you want to backlink to specific articles and genres of types of content similarly, so that there's a relationship. So even with these sites that have a broad range of baking, now I'm going to use MoneyRobot. I'm going to create a campaign. On my baking site, I maybe want to group some similar types of baking pages together of certain breads, the keywords that revolve around that, and then my content. Look, in today's world, the content that you need to generate for a basic backlinking campaign starts right here with ChatGPT-4. You get the aHrefs free Chrome extension, just Google it, and now you get all these nice prompts. You find one like this one, Outrank article, and you want to take the article from your site that you want to backlink to and create some AI generated content based on that. Very simple of approach to make a nice, narrow, focused backlinking campaign. And this thing will do its basic thing. Now, of course, these generally need a little bit of editing, and you're going to take that content and you're going to put it into here. But a smarter approach is to even do multiple articles. You might want to create a group of different posts that you're going to do instead of a single one. It depends on how narrow you want to keep your focus and how much you can diversify it between the number of different pages that you're going to backlink as your money site URLs, your keywords, which should all overlap and relate to all of these documents in one form or another. And then here, you can load that content based on a folder. So you could just make a series of 4 or 8 or a dozen different specific articles, put them into a folder in a simple text file, and then just select that folder and load it from here, and then let it spin the articles and set your campaigns that way. That gives you a nice tight campaign around a certain type of subject matter. Okay, just like anything, I'm just using the baking thing as an example, but you could see these baking sites, they do very well, and I just had that open to take the link. But this is the tool of how you really want to analyze your backlinking process, but understanding that, look, don't be blinded by the DR value approach. It's far more valuable to have lower DR platform sites that have related content that are backlinking to you for this month than it is to have some high DR value backlink that's really become outdated in the big picture, because that's what these recent numbers are. Now, if you're the smaller guy like this one, let's go back to his overview here. I would say this one is like the archetype to be, say, the guy who wants to compete against the bigger ones, and there's many, okay? And you can compare yourself to your top competitors with this by looking at the competing domains, and that'll give you the information of the sites that compete with the keywords that you appear for. And you can also go to your traffic value, analyze all of your pages. But your traffic value is a strong indicator in this niche many times. Like I said, they can vary, but getting to know your numbers and your metrics, your organic keywords, your referring domain names, okay? And keeping things in a positive growth factor is critical. The sites that go down will be experiencing downturns, and that's just the way it is, because ultimately the metric of what's happening, and like I said, when we look in here and we see that there's Pinterest going on and certain things like that, look, these things happen. We sorted by value, so this is giving us some historical data, but it's that whole ecosystem. That's why also including lots of other social media, anything that fits your platform that you can tweet or post your blogs or links to that content, and the content is king. So if you've got a site, you've got to be creating content. You've got to be creating blogs, articles. Maybe you're a shopping site, you've got a different dynamic, but of course you're always rotating and growing product base. And even if I had a shopping site, I would be supplementing it with blogs, because blogs and articles and what's the word I'm looking for? Reviews are critical to people making purchases. So that all of these things tie together. But what you want to do is analyze yourself as it compares to your competitors and look at their backlinks. The whole story is in the backlinks. And you'll find that all the real factors that make things work well come in backlinks. And the higher the number of backlinks, you're going to see all the other metrics are higher. And let's just compare all that very quickly. Let's go back, get all of our overviews up. Here we got 1.79 million backlinks. They got a 1.5 million traffic value. 5.8 as opposed to 1.79. 9.7 million. Okay? 1.27, 3.9. Now, like I said, you could see there's a range of variation, because of course, once we get into these high numbers of large content sites and backlinks, their values can vary based on their content or certain trends. And it's not just the value of the keyword bidding that affects this, but also the search trends. if the search trends for certain things that their keywords come up for that have traffic value, that also is going to fluctuate. So just understanding that's not something that you can live by in terms of evaluating yourself, but it's useful to know. Again, look at these high numbers of backlinks. But as we get down to someone that's a smaller competitor, he's only in the 6,000 range, okay? And he's got a much smaller backlinking, smaller referring domain names, keywords 24K as opposed to 3 million. Understand? See the relationship, but the underlying factor with all of this is going to be the backlinks and recent and historical. And obviously, you've got to get the metrics behind your content. So, you're not going to get, if you have 50,000 backlinks and you've only got 10 pages on your website or blog, you're not going to get the kind of results that you need, because you need to have enough content that has the diversity of keywords and intentional search in those pages. But how the backlinks plays into this is the critical role, and why this makes using these softwares so important. Now, we see these tiering structures. I want to go back to talking about tiering just very briefly. You're not going to find anything in here about tiering, because the only real thing that matters at the end of the day about their scoring mechanisms is the value of the backlinks, recent versus historical. And of course, yes, it's better if those links have a higher DR value, but until you grow your website into that ecosystem that will allow you to get some of that, which many of these guys, they're getting that all naturally in this ecosystem. Now, obviously, different websites, different niches, different genres, all types of different businesses, they are all different. This is, one example of sites that compete in a certain ecosystem, and they're not all the same. There's overlap, and some go into other genres of cooking and baking that they don't all cover. So these are really important things to examine, but always through the eye of backlinks, because this is the critical factor. And when backlinks go up, referring domains also go up. Organic keywords also go up. And understanding that these three metrics are really tied together and is the critical factor that makes a successful backlinking strategy. So rather than focusing on trying to do things with, now, as opposed to like a GSA search engine ranker or a more advanced software, I use MoneyRobot because it is the most common denominator, lowest common denominator for someone to get into using. But all of your postings with this, they're all going to sit at low DR values most of the time. And that's okay, because what's more important is that we just get that content to register after it's submitted, and that the content is in the same vein of relationship and keywords to what it is backlinking to. Okay? Now, there are other things that tiering does have its role, and rather than going out of your way to do tiering, when you get into using other software like, say, SEO Autopilot, let's just take a quick look at a campaign that just completed for me this morning. Now, here's a campaign that just completed this morning for one of my clients, and looking at the link list, I got total submitted was 20,000, which was a very high success rate out of this. But you'll see here, it says all tiers. So this created its own tier 1, tier 2 as part of the site structure that I chose for posting. But of course, you can see there's a range of posting types that were included in this campaign, including wiki. And that's important, which we see a lot of wiki backlinks in the examination of the backlinks of others while I close that page out. But understanding this SEO aspect, this is what's going to drive your keyword searches up with Google. This is going to help your SEO, because the relationship of backlinks, the more important thing is the content that is connected to it. Having unrelated websites that just happen to have high DR value, they may even give you some boost in the short term, and but over the long term it's very small because the driving factors are much more month to month. If you really look at all of the aspects that Google has been doing and its changes with its algorithms, it always seems to say it has an emphasis on quality of content. And obviously that's true. It's trying to sort out what it thinks is AI generated or low value, but what is the easiest way for it to determine about what's really an active site? By how much activity revolves around it on a monthly basis. What's going on day to day with its backlinks? Is there other activity going on? And not just, while this is a core thing, and using these tools we can hit a range of platforms, but we also want to be able to utilize social media. Pinterest is good for a lot of people, Twitter, Facebook, etc. Anything that gives you a detectable backlink that you see your competitors are using, you're going to want to incorporate that in your own strategies. So fitting the ecosystem. Another tool I like to use is Screaming Frog, especially like for my full SEO clients. I need to analyze their competitors, and so I just took my own blog site and I did a scan of it, and you get really good useful data in here that you can analyze large sites. You can click through and look at all of their page titles, descriptions, any keywords they have placed, their H1 tags, H2 tags, keywords. We can go over here and look at generally this is overview. We can go to the site structure, and literally it shows us the whole structure of its categories and actual blog post titles. Very useful tool for analyzing and understanding the size of the competitors' websites as opposed to your own, and who you're competing with in that ecosphere. And this is why I recommend always starting out with MoneyRobot for people that want to get into this. It's one of the most user-friendly to get started with, and yet it can be very powerful. It's also very safe because the links that it's going to create are at a low enough level that you're not going to necessarily get yourself into trouble unless you really do something very poor. But if you've got a solid approach to creating your campaign, the article, spun content, you should do pretty well. Now, as I pointed out about the UR values, like I noted here, this is a much lesser site, but yet it has a very high rank as opposed to some of the other ones that have bigger traffics. So understanding this ranking value is more in what it's seeing, what you're doing right in the scope of the size of your website. So there's a lot of factors that go into this, and I strongly suggest that if you use this tool, you do the many tutorial videos that they provide on this to give you overviews on how to do things, and just spend a lot of time in here because there's just a wealth of data about yourself and your competitors that you can get out of here and really realize how to replicate the strategy of your competitors. So I use these as an example because in this particular case, MoneyRobot's a great starting tool to get nice, relevant content posts that backlink to that content. But of course, over time, you're gonna, as you become more prominent in the approaches of backlinking, whether you're doing it for yourself or as part of your SEO service, this is where you're going to get into mid-range tools like SEO Autopilot or Ranker X. However, while they can do some larger numbers, there are other issues with those, which I'll cover in those tutorials. And ultimately, you want to get yourself to a place where you want to be doing GSA search engine ranker because, you do get the broadest array of platforms, but you don't necessarily want to be doing all these. I frequently do very tight campaigns with just a few things as so checked. I don't need all of these other things because sometimes it's unnatural, like too many things. Like in the case of this, using SEO Autopilot is not a product that I would use repeatedly on my website, and that's because of the example that I showed you. With this product, you can't opt out of certain things unless you create your own diagram from scratch. And no one who gets this product is going to start out creating their own diagrams. You're going to go with the ones that are built into the software. But you're going to get all of these types, and this is not something you're going to want to run all of these types regularly. The most effective things that are going to impact your SEO are the Web 2.0 blogs and probably the wiki. Also, forum profiles help sometimes, and all of these things can help. However, including social book marketing, but you don't want them to be overwhelming. They create too much unrealistic metric, whereas relying heavier on something like, I'll have to cover the specifics of those in those videos, which I'm going to be doing very soon, is the SEO Autopilot, which is already under construction, and I'm going to do one on aHrefs. But as we get into here, what I really like about GSA is GSA, you can create a very comprehensive campaign. And in my previous videos, I talk about getting started with lists, and that is the good way to get started. But to actually go out and, whether I'm using a list or then moving to scraping my own sources with this is a software you can let run very slow, and that's what you want. It's not going to go out. I don't want GSA Search Engine Ranker making 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 backlinks. That's going to get me into trouble. What I wanted to do is, in the course of a week, generate me 50 to 150 backlinks that are higher value, that are related, that it can find, where I can actually set the PR value of the resource that it finds, so it checks to see if it has enough higher ranking. And this is where you can start in the world of integrating a higher scoring backlinks, but that takes a lot of time. And so you're going to have a system that's dedicated for this, and it can just run for like a week or 2 weeks at a time, because you may need to restart your system somewhere in there. But that's how my approach is with GSA Search Engine Ranker. If I do a large scale campaign, it's because it's something that I can specifically capitalize on high numbers of certain resources. But I won't be using all of these together, which is a big mistake that most people make, because nobody just suddenly explodes with all of these metrics across all of these different types of platforms. That's why it's best to kind of really keep yourself focused on the Web 2.0 blogs and a sprinkle of everything else. And likewise, even though I've recommended in the campaigns about making sure that your backlinks, just like the examples that we saw earlier in this video, go to not your homepage, but you can include your homepage in the mix occasionally. Most of my campaigns, I would say 75%, I do not include a homepage URL. And when I do include a homepage URL, let's say I do it in a MoneyRobot campaign. When I've got that new campaign and I'm putting my money site URLs, I've probably got 10 or 16 other URLs. So it's watered down. And then I can monitor the results based on my UR, because the more backlinks you have to pages that are not your main URL, this is going to go down. That doesn't mean that's a bad thing. If this is high, it's a good thing. And in this case, as we can see, hey, look, 14.9K referring domain names. It's got 118K backlinks. This is more of a middle ground site as opposed to this guy who's a bit smaller, and these others that are substantially larger. Okay, we see that a high URI doesn't really, those tend to come with the sites that have the really, really big numbers. Okay, and because generally, as a rule, if you just go out and you were to run MoneyRobot and just had everything going to your homepage URL, it's like a red flag, and you would find yourself, suddenly plummeting And the reason people plummet is because they try to do too much. You know, with the right kind of campaigns for these sort of niches, you could be just running this constantly, you know, but you've got to have the content to sufficiently backlink. You're not going to do it, you know, if you look at these sites, they've got lots and lots of content, lots of blogs, and of course, including YouTube, because I embed YouTube videos in every post. And in fact, along with the spun content, I even will often have 3, 4, even 6 videos spinning between the different posts. You can set the same spin tax up and post in your embedded code from any YouTube video. So for example, I'm here and, you know, I go to this video and I want to embed my video. I can just go share, grab the embed code like so, copy it. I'm going to come back to my MoneyRobot, and in here, in my body, usually I put it at the top of the post, I'm going to put the spin tax, which is the curly bracket, put my video, now I put a spacer bar, now I can put another video, and then put my curly bracket there, and voila, every post is going to spin and rotate between these two videos. And as long as they're all related, you can use many and help mix your content of your postings to make each post more unique. So not only is the actual article spinning, and words inside of it, but the actual videos that are being posted as well. And I think for the most part, that's going to conclude it for this video. Now, does that mean because your competitor has 2 million backlinks and you have 5,000, you can go down and just lay down 100,000 and have them detected rapidly? No, because time is a factor. As we can see, recent versus historical. There's a reason for that. And I'm using the basic overview. They have Overview 2.0, which gives you a variation of this. But I'm not going to go into all of that. You know, here, this isn't actually a tutorial about aHrefs, but rather just the understanding the relationship between SEO and backlinks. Now, is this going to work for a 10-page website with 3 blog articles, or even you have a decent sized site, but you've got crappy internal SEO or no YouTube videos and you're not really doing any form of social media? Not necessarily going to help you too much, because you've got to simulate the metrics of the competitors. Have social media, have sizable amount of content. Content is king, and you need to keep growing that content, building on it. These sites that hit these big astronomical traffic values, that's in these niches, that's, you know, for baking, that's, and cooking, that's some very impressive numbers. It just gives you the insights and understanding of, you know, even a site like this, I can assure you that they do good ad revenue every month just based on seeing this number and understanding its metrics and traffic. So I can just imagine what some of these sites are doing with these much higher values. But I wanted to use this niche because it really exemplifies, you know, the relationship with backlinks. You look at other niches, or they may not be blog sites, or perhaps, you know, it's shopping sites or fixed products, services, equipment, whatever it is. Each thing has its own relationship, but backlinks is the critical factor, an indicator. And the backlinks, they're not just these blog postings, but the nice mix of the other types of resources that are included in these softwares, along with your own social media. That's why I say the 3 big foundation factors you need: website content, blogs, and YouTube, supplemented with some social media, and then you can really amp this up. Now, if I'm a smaller site and I want to turn into one of these bigger sites, I've got a clear roadmap here, because every time I add another recipe/blog article about baking bread, cooking, whatever, etc., I'm going to be able to backlink that article like crazy, optimize it for SEO, and drive it up with this process. And when I begin to simulate those metrics, look, I successfully have inflated companies like some of my SEO clients. One of them is a large test equipment manufacturer. They compete with a company whose website is 10 times as large, and yet I make them have equal ground on their total market share of search results versus their competitor. And I do it with both a good internal strategy, and their content is extensive, and combining that with a very powerful backlinking strategy where I literally create the content for those backlink posts out of their own content. And this process works extremely well. Takes some refining, but that's why starting with MoneyRobot's a good way to start out, because look, you can run 5 campaigns to your website, to various pages, and have approximately 50,000 backlinks. You're not going to see 50,000 backlinks, appearing back here. You're going to see like numbers like more like this guy's got over a certain period of time. It's not about what you're seeing as the total, because remember, that's just what aHrefs is detecting. So that we can assume that it's probably like 3 times as much really backlinks out there. But even Google in all of its crawling doesn't see everything. This is giving us our indicators, so we want to compare it to the other guys. But you sure don't want, when I see these videos where the guys go out and put up 100,000 links down and suddenly they're seeing a vast or significant portion of that appearing in here, that's a problem. When you run MoneyRobot, in and of itself, you're not going to get a high level of indexing out of this, and because a lot of these are going to appear at low levels, they're not going to always get crawled naturally. And that's where, once a campaign completes, going to the URL here, you'll get the output. You can select and copy and paste it. I think I covered that in the MoneyRobot video, but you want to take that and index that separately, and not with an indexing service that's going to fast track 10,000 backlinks to be indexed, because that's going to make you drop. But there's a whole process in the indexing aspect, which that of course is another video. However, my tool for that is using GSA search engine indexing product for that, along with its the companion product, which is the Redirect Pro. So those two products together can be very useful. While I think I point out in one of my other videos, they may seem slow, but they can be very fast in terms of how you adjust the metrics, and you don't want them coming in super fast, but you want to find the right way to grow yourself up to match your competitors. Of course, these are in the extremes. You're not necessarily in your niche. Your competitors are going to have these high numbers of backlinks, okay? Generally, for a lot of websites, a high number would be like 50,000. So finding, getting to that place where you don't get there too quickly, but you build it up gradually across the ecosystem, and in such a way that you don't trigger any red flags. And this is critical to this process, but I use it extremely successful and many different variations, and it makes my clients able to better weather the Google algorithm changes, because ultimately, if your content is constantly being expanded, updated, modified, and you've got this powerful backlinking process behind it that's being backlinked from content that is related to the source that it is pointing to, and ranking and focusing about the same keyword topics, that is what, in your recent backlinks, is going to have a big impact on search engines that are always trying to sift the old from the new, and the best and the brightest, and what's most popular. And what's most popular is often being referred in those backlinks with other things like Pinterest, and that's another aspect, because even with MoneyRobot, you can create your own project sitemaps for this, because they have their own diagram. You can create your own diagrams and literally just do like hitting your own social bookmarks, Tumblr, Pinterest, and pumping them up just using this tool And that's probably another video, but I saw a good approach on how that works extremely successfully to actually make your posts to those social media much more rank better, and likewise they become backlinks that rank better into your SEO ranking. And like when we looked at this I think we were looking at this one. Let's just go. When we looked at their backlinks, and when we see some things with Pinterest in here, it's much easier to establish high DR values for Pinterest posts than it is for web pages with URL domain names. So I hope this really helps give you some insight into how this really influences the process, but it has to be done in a targeted way. This product, you could literally do a campaign on a per page basis if you've got enough content, and this way your campaign is very narrow, a single article that's being spun, a small range of phrases, and that, you know, could be a half a dozen to as many as 24 keyword phrases you would put in here, and that's going to give you some basis for your title content. And if you're going to, what I often do sometimes is I put my keywords in, and then I let it create the unique articles, but really just for the titles. I clear out the content, then I put my own content into the body, and then I spin it again. Or frequently I'm using multiple articles and loading them from a folder and working in a group range. Then when that process completes, I take the output of the URLs and I set up a customized indexing campaign. And that is another video, because there's a lot of metrics involved in doing your own indexing. But obviously, if you are going to set up a small sort of SEO operation where you want to be able to do your own backlinking and indexing and be able to work with one or two softwares and have your indexing system also running, you realize that you need more than one system to make this happen. And that's why even in my office, I have things grouped in sets of 4. So I have 4 dedicated boxes, all just running MoneyRobot 24/7. 4 systems just running indexing, keyword indexing with GSA, just that, dedicated for that. Then of course, all the other systems are mostly grouped in 4s, but they have flexibility. So they may be working in a range of different things. Like right now I have 4 systems that are also running GSA's contact form software, and I'm posting to contact forms to promote one of my websites. So understanding that, you know, the metrics of the requirements of the amount of systems that you might need to set up a decent little operation. That's why my recommendation is you get like 4 nice refurbished systems, a single monitor, a switch box, keyboard, and a mouse, and you are off and running. So I hope to expand on this and talk more, but I want to get into talking about some of the other technical aspects in my next video. I'm going to cover like a VPN review and some new approaches I've come up with to manipulating some things as I get around some problems that frequently come up with these softwares and ones that require using proxies. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and you get a lot out of it. Leave your questions and comments in the comment section below and I'll be getting back to you. And guys, watch for the release of my new website that's going to accompany this channel. It's darkmarketing.biz. Right now it's still under construction, but I'm going to be offering some more involved courses that really get into the details of the type of work I do and the approaches that I utilize in my business, as well as some great resources and articles that I think you'll find very useful as it relates to these topics. I may also begin to make available lists that I put together myself and make some really nice lists that you guys can purchase for GSA contact management software or GSA search engine ranker. So I hope to have a lot of good stuff here and a place for you guys to be able to contact me more directly, and might even have a little forum. Not 100% sure. I'm toying with a few things in the background, but I'll probably be announcing that with my next video. So watch for it. Guys, you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and give me a like, and look forward to our next one.